Thank you. Okay, let's kick the second part. Good evening all, and welcome to this November 10th, 2025 meeting of the Lake Bluff Village Board of Trustees. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee El Shabazz. Here. Trustee Fisher.
Here.
Trustee Freed.
Here.
Trustee Redder. Here. Trustee Ryder.
Here.
Thank you. Please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do not have awards and proclamation tonight. Next is the consideration of the minutes of the October 27, 2025 Village Board meeting. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved. Second.
Are there any typos, changes, notes? I do not see any. It is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And this motion carries. Next are our non-agenda items and visitors. The village president and board of trustees allocates 15 minutes for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the village board of trustees on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each person addressing the village board of trustees is asked to limit their comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Again, I do not.
Yeah, anyone participating in tonight's village board meeting through the Zoom, please raise your hand if you want to make comments on anything that is that are not on tonight's agenda. Now's the time to be recognized. No.
Nothing. All right. Next is our village board setting the order of the meeting. The village president and board of trustees will entertain requests from anyone present on the order of business to be conducted during the village board meeting. So there are 25 items on the meeting, and I have about 6 items to actually be put out of order. I don't know how I'm going to be able to track all that down as I'm going through it. So I hear 18, 15, 16, 14, and 8A.
Do that a little slower.
Can you renumber those?
18,
Yeah.
15, 16, 14, and 8A. Any objection or any addition? And so without objections, I'm moving forward toward item number 18. That would be a resolution approving a tentative plat of subdivision for property located at 1750 and 1776 Shore Acre Drive. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Second.
And specifically, that would be following an informal review at the July 16, 2025 PCZBA meeting, architect Healy Rice submitted applications for the following in order to build a new single-family residence at 1750 Shore Acre Drive. Number 1, a tentative plat of subdivision approval to expand the lot at 1750 Shore Acre Drive and to reduce the lot at 1776 Shore Acre Drive. And number 2, a variation from section 10-5-1 and 10-5A-5 of a zoning regulation to be considered with a final plat. Staff previously worked with a village attorney to determine that 1750 and 1776 Shore Acre Drives are 2 separate, undersized zoning lots. The home at 1776 Shore Acre Drive was demolished earlier this year, and the Historic Preservation Commission will likely be conducting a demolition review for the home at 1750 Shore Acre Drive at their November 12 meeting. On September 17, 2025, the PCZBA held a public hearing on the requested relief. The PCZBA unanimously recommended that the village board approve the tentative plat with the following plat restrictions as conditions. Number 1, that the total square footage for the proposed building to be constructed on the 1750 property not exceed 3,783 square feet, and two, but a separate driveway for the 1750 property not be constructed off Shawaka Drive. The draft resolution contains the plat restriction recommended by the PCCBA. The village board can decide whether or not to include the condition as presented, modify them, or remove them. Conditions can also be added and changed at time of final plat approval. Because this is only the first step of approval, the village board may choose to approve a resolution as drafted and encourage the applicant to present any alternative conditions to the PCCBA during its review of the final. And I see we have applicants here tonight.
Representatives of the applicants. My name is Warren Silver. I am an attorney with Brown, Udell, Pomerantz, and Del Rahim Limited, and I'm representing both of the owners. John O'Donnell, as the trustee of his living trust, owns 1776, and Rob Berner is the sole owner, member, and manager of Shore Acres Drive LLC, owns 1750. And as you went through, the house at 1776 has been demolished. The house at 1750, I understand, was recently damaged in a storm and will need to be demolished. But the difficulty and hardship here comes from the fact that this area had been platted prior to annexation to Lake Bluff on lots that are smaller than the country estate zoning district that they've been placed in. So there's a need for relief on the minimum lot size and setbacks. Now, Architect Rice worked with village staff to come up with the concept of rejiggering the boundaries of the two sublots that had originally been Lot 3 in this subdivision, that itself was undersized, but then it was, prior to annexation, further divided into these two lots. The house at 1750 is right up against the Shore Acres Drive, which is a private roadway. And the idea was to make it fit in better with the surrounding area and with the Lake Bluff generally, to set it further back from the road. The easiest way to do that without a lot of zoning relief and a need for repeat zoning relief in the future was to rejigger the boundaries between these two lots. The two owners were amenable to that, and that's how we got here. Now, the one concern that we had is that when we, having worked with staff and came up with that concept, when we got to PCZBA, one of the members had the concern that we not build a house that's larger than we could otherwise build on that really small substandard lot at 1750. And, I mean, aside from the fact that we're already in a low, very small FAR, wide setbacks. It's a restrictive zoning district as it is. We understand that we want houses that aren't going to be oversized for the area, but we're not sure that what was suggested is the appropriate way to go about that. There were several problems, and as I mentioned, this hadn't come up in Architect Rice's meetings with staff. The first we heard about the desire for this limitation was at PCZBA when the tentative plat was being considered. I mentioned on the record at the time that we would need to talk to the owners about that suggestion. We couldn't necessarily agree to it on the spot. Having looked into it and analyzed it with the owners and their architect, the concern is that, first of all, the tentative plans for the house at 1750 is already larger than the 3,783 square feet that had been incorporated as a restriction in the tentative plat. I believe that number to be an error, and the assertion by one of the members of PCZBA that it was the most that could be built on the lot as currently configured was not correct, because I don't think he took into account the fact that the Shore Acres Drive is not a public right-of-way. It is a private easement. And so half of that roadway is actually part of this lot. And if you include that area, then you can build, almost 4,200 square feet as of right on this much smaller lot than would exist after the reconfiguration. So that's one concern. The other concern is the impact on a house that you could build here that's going to be on a larger lot than the current lot. It's going to remain subject to the CE zoning district's limitations. But it can't possibly be expanded even in ways that have no impact on the surrounding community. And, I think most notably here, the house is a little bit more than 3,800 square feet as it had been designed by architect Bryce. But that's all on the first floor, and there's an unfinished attic above. Now, a subsequent owner of this house may want to add some additional livable space by building out the attic. It's something that would create an important improvement for the house that would not have any visual impact from the roadway or from neighboring houses, but it would add a great deal of utility to the house, but it would be prohibited by a limitation on floor area that was that low. So it's kind of an unintended consequence of the desire to control the development so that it doesn't result in a mega mansion on a tiny lot. As I outlined in the letter that I sent to the staff for the trustees that was included in your meeting packet, there are some other ideas that we can explore with a little bit of time in the process and make sure that concerns about an oversized house are addressed while not limiting the utility of the house to the current owner or to future owners who may want to expand livable space a bit in ways that are completely fitting in with the community. And we want to do that in a way that doesn't require people to be constantly coming back through the zoning process for what would otherwise be relatively minor things. And so what we'd like to ask that you do as we go back for final plat review and approval is to remove this restriction in order to sort of let staff and PCZBA know that it's not an appropriate limitation, that staff and the architect and the owner's attorneys are happy to work out something with some time and thought that might not be such a blunt instrument here. I am concerned that just approving the tentative plat as it is, even though we can work out something else if you do, only sends the message that what happened on the fly there was okay. But I think it would have a chilling effect on working something out that makes more sense and is thought through better than what was sprung on us at PCZBA.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that, if you have any questions?
I would like to try to summarize what I think I heard. So in round numbers, 37 plus number that the BCZBA sprung on you is incorrect. As you understand it, it ought to be closer to 4,200. If his theory under which he calculated it is correct. Is that so? there's three numbers, right? One number is the 37 plus, another number is the roughly 4,200 that would, if correctly calculated, result in from the PCZBA's observation theory. The third number, and the number that concerns me, is the number 6,200 or 6,600 or such. And the way you got there, I thought, from your letter, was that you said applying the country estates zoning obligations, that would be the number that you would get to. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, but not completely. That number, the roughly 6,300 square feet,
63?
is if you apply the formula for the maximum FAR in the country estates district to the new lot size, you would get that number. However, that's only one factor that goes into what the size of the structure is going to be. Remember also that there's a maximum 20% lot coverage limitation in the country estates district. It may, there's height limitations, and there's the slope and the height limitations. It may be, and, I haven't gone through the architectural exercise, and neither has someone who's actually an architect done that. But it may be that you cannot, as a practical matter, build the full 6,300 square feet when you consider all the other limitations that you have to respect in the CE district.
It would seem like it. That was what my question was. Because the 6,300 number it doesn't frankly make sense to me. And it's because you're asking for relief from the country estates, right? It's not take 2 acres. Under no circumstances is it 2 acres. Or 5. Oh, 5 acres. I'm thinking about the one below that then. It's not 5 acres, nor has it ever been. So it doesn't make sense to me to apply the zoning regulations for the type of property that you're seeking relief from by saying we should be allowed to have a half-acre lot to begin with, or whatever that number is. But I do appreciate the need to get the number right. And having not done the calculations, what I'd like to suggest is that we send back to the PCZBA or whomever gets this next, a resolution or a recommendation, thank you, that the number be calculated correctly, but the FAR for a much smaller lot, a non-country estates lot, be the FAR that governs this. Because it seems incongruous to me to get relief from the CE restrictions by having a tiny little lot by CE standards, but yet get the underlying zoning benefits, thank you, of the CE restriction. So I don't think you can have it both ways. I would like to make that recommendation to get the number right, but that it not go to 6,300 or whatever might be calculated from the CE. Because we are, for all other purposes, not treating this like a CE property. If we were, we would be saying this ought to be one lot, not 2.
Thank you, Suzanne. Any more commenting?
I have a question to Drew. Drew, the addresses that we're talking about tonight, 1776 and 1750, before this plat is finalized and subdivided, are those addresses the addresses on record today? Or are they creating new addresses?
They seem to be in the tax rolls.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Drew, and you may know this, I don't know off the top of my head, on the CE lots, it's 20%. Aren't they larger on lower zoning district? I mean, aren't they more like 40% on larger districts?
They vary, but yeah.
Right. So I think kind of on where you're going, which I think we're both going to the same end, the CE numbers, because of the larger lots, are smaller. So we actually are, the percentage of that you're allowed to build is smaller because of the larger size. So therefore, the future number would still be smaller than if this 27,000 foot lot were in a different zoning district.
So if this 27,000 foot lot were in an R4, What would the FAR? It wouldn't be the 42 number, the 4,200? We don't know.
Well, yeah, and I guess I would go back to the comment that was made at the PCCBA and was voted on by the members that were present
Yeah.
unanimously, was the idea was to put a governor on how big of a structure that can go back on there and to make it more closely match the original lot size.
I see.
Pre-subdivision.
Oh, pre this new subdivision.
Yes, so that was the intent. And so, and when member Russell did the calculation,
Yeah,
he said, I don't
the envelope.
I
Yeah.
don't know, yeah, I don't know what the exact number is. I'm happy to know whatever the exact number is. But that's how it ended up, the motion being made and being approved and recommended to you all to see. So I think,
So I misunderstood from your letter and clearly didn't read it closely enough. But what seems to me is that if we're permitting such a small lot, and it's a very small lot, I look at this and I think this ought to be one lot, but not my decision, I know. But if we're permitting this lot, then it ought to be subject to similar size lots, FAR. And I think what now I'm hearing from the architect is that if we were to do that, then we would result in some bigger number, which I don't think is the intent.
And that's
Oh.
why my suggestion was that we just take it out entirely with, and transmit the thought that we really do need to think it through more carefully, because aside from that, as I mentioned, I'm not sure that FAR is by itself the magic formula here for controlling that development. The example I gave of building out the unfinished attic and thereby running afoul of an FAR limitation, even though there would be no impact on the surrounding
Yeah,
area.
that happens to others, though. That happens in the R4. It happened to my neighbor. That happens. So
Can I please ask, one thing I've not heard from you is what is your intent? What are you fighting for? I know that you are limited at 3,700 and you would like to go to 4,200 and 6,300 might be an upper limit, but what are you trying to achieve?
To eliminate the FAR requirement from this round.
and my perspective is this is so non-conforming that we need some governor. That's my perspective.
Drew, can you just talk through, I don't mean to interrupt, but if we approved as it's presented to us with the restrictions today, what are the options for these owners?
so this with a tentative plat is not very meaningful, other than that, because it's an incomplete process. It has to go back to final plat. So they have to go back to the PCZBA to get considerations. And at this point, the only thing that is being debated is this one particular restriction. Everything else, everybody's comfortable with. And I think in a perfect world that they would have never left the PCZBA without getting this fleshed out, that they should have been continued there rather than, but here we are. So they have to go back anyway. So the idea of having this governor on there, that was the directive, that was the goal for the PCZBA. So I think you can approve it as is, even though the applicant doesn't want that, but that would meet the objectives of the PCZBA, can send it back to, they can work through the differences and come back for final and have whatever restriction or no restriction. But the idea is at this point in time, as I understand from the legal process, if you want to have that restriction, some shape of that, it should still be approved at tentative plat. Peter, right?
Yeah, although you could, I thought trustee Ryder was going here, but you could include something about total square footage without including that 3,783 number. You could say the total square footage for the proposed building to be constructed at 1750, at the 1750 property may not exceed a number which will be subject to further review by the PCZBA and
Yeah.
final decision by the village board. I mean, you could.
That is what I'm proposing. Exactly.
I like that more. So I guess the options we have are, we approve as it is, and the owners go back and fight it out with the PCZBA before it comes back to us. Or we send it back completely, we don't vote tonight and tell them to get the number right, or option 3 is what Peter just described. Okay.
How is the board feeling about these three options?
I have one more question for Drew. Drew, can you talk to me about Our next regularly scheduled HPC meeting, we've got two items on the agenda for demo. One of them is 1750 Shore Acres. The other is 1995 Sheridan. Is there any relation between the two properties?
No.
No? Does 1750 or 1776 have any direct access to Sheridan Road? A driveway, shared lot line?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Can I please go back to my question? That is, we have three options as put forward by, I think Taryn put those options forward. How do you guys feel about it? What is your choice?
I look at this and your question, what is the intent,
Mhm.
right? Normally, when I would want to see relief or a variation, I would want to see pencil sketches of what's out there now, what are the structures that are out there now, what are their sizes approximately, square footages, and then what you would like to get to, what you're currently restricted to, and what you would like to get to in terms of structures on these lots. Visually, it would help me to see the plans, to see the massing, even if it's very roughly blocked out, rather than talking about square footages, because a lot of times it's what does it look like in the community? What is the?
In
what is
contact,
that?
yeah.
Qualify that, but I've given you all of that.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the
Yeah.
packet.
And-
So I
It's
guess
not in our
now-
packet. It might have been in the
The
PCZBA.
drawings
pack.
are in the pack.
Okay, I'll-
I'm sorry.
That's
Okay,
permanent. So,
I apologize.
so
Didn't see it.
the original house
I-
is 1,250 square
I didn't
feet.
see that.
Okay,
The house that we're proposing is 3,800 square feet, but it's a one-story home.
so
so
if there was no relief, what would it have to be?
If there was no relief, it would have to be 30, well, that's the question, I guess, is the wild card is what is actually the allowable square footage? If we don't have this easement consideration, which takes out 1,900 square feet of our property, 1,934 square feet, then the lot size goes back to 12,850. And so it would be whatever that number is for FAR. So we're back to this 4,200 square feet. If with that easement removed, it's 3,783. We just felt, when I designed the house on the new lot, what we worked with, just to give you guys a little bit of background, and it was great. Russell said, he's like, why don't you move it back? Then you can satisfy the 100-foot setback, you can satisfy the other setbacks. What do you need to make that lot work? And that's what we came back with. And so that way, I thought we really had kind of checked the boxes and satisfied the PCCBA to be able to do that. And so this, like you said, sort of out of left field of limiting us back to the original 11,800 square foot lot seems,
This is.
I guess, punitive, when the board had originally said, great, let's make this lot a little bit bigger. And, again, you guys are all familiar, this is a neighborhood of large homes. And this 3,800 square foot home that we're proposing is not a giant McMansion. We just want to be able to have flexibility. My clients have no intention of doing anything other than what we're doing right now, but somebody else might down the road. And we were just trying to minimize the or the opportunity for somebody to be able to make some improvements that would be subtle and discreet and satisfy the zoning setbacks and requirements without having to come back for another FAR variation because somebody had limited us on this 11,000 square foot lot.
Yeah, and keep in mind that this is an entire neighborhood of substandard lots.
Sure.
And this is a case where we're trying to ameliorate that somewhat by making this particularly tiny lot at 1750 a little bit bigger by taking a little bit out of its neighbor where the neighbors are amenable. These are two lots that have been under separate ownership for as long as we can determine and remain under separate ownership. So the grandfathering has never been lost with respect to the lot sizes. The country estates FAR formula does in fact contemplate smaller lots. There's a series of math formulas that you need to do to come up with the FAR that vary based on the lot size. And they start on lots smaller than these. So it's not unheard of, even though the minimum developable lot area is supposed to be 5 acres. But ultimately, I think before this goes back to PCZBA, we think that what would be most fruitful is for us to have an opportunity to spend some time working with village staff, working, if you deem it appropriate, with village council, and to figure out what kinds of limitations and restrictions might best actually fulfill the concerns about fitting in with the neighborhood. Going through, as was mentioned, the idea that we want to look at how this fits in and what's in the surrounding area.
So-
One of that, we were not able to do that at PCZBA when this was sprung on.
So, I mean, in any case, I kind of understand that we're going to go send it back to the PCCBA. It's going to go back there and you're going to be able to re-advocate your desire and argue about 37 versus 4,200 versus no size. And as our third options, and I would be hard pressed to be as eloquent as Taryn on that case. But basically, this is going to go back to PCCBA. Do you all agree with me?
I agree.
Yes, I agree.
It is.
And so from a wording standpoint, how did you word the third option, or do you remember?
It's just simply referring it back to the PCBA to before preliminary plat is approved, a tentative plat is approved.
That wasn't my third option, but so now.
Or preliminary?
That was my second. That was
I
the
think
second
that-
option, but the third option was doing what Susan and Peter were sort of discussing.
A number, yeah.
Acknowledging that there needs to be some kind of governor, but
Okay,
Yeah, but if I understand it, you're suggesting sending it back to PCZBA for final plat approval, but with modifications to the tentative plat, right?
Under this third option, this resolution would be adopted, preliminary plat approval would be granted. And one of the conditions or plat restrictions in that granting would be the need to come up with a total square footage for that lot to be included as part of final plat approval.
And the way I'm thinking of it is, what are we gonna treat this animal as? Are we gonna treat it like it was in an R4? We're gonna treat it like it's in I think we have to have some grounding in that. And that's best left to the PCZBA. And I think that's what George was trying to get to. But I think, he'll be able to articulate the rationale and get the number right. And so I think we don't need to see a tentative again. What we need to see is the correct governor on the lot size tied to something that makes that's appropriate for this lot.
From our standpoint, that's fine, but we're really not excited about the idea of going back to PCZBA to negotiate this at the PCZBA meeting again, rather than having an opportunity to do a more in-depth review analysis, come to some sort of agreement at the staff level so that staff recommendations can be fed up to PCZBA and ultimately to this board. I think we all know, have some idea of what the goals are here, but we want to have a thoughtful approach to figuring out how best to meet those goals rather than trying to do it on the fly. at a
Which is exactly what we're
PCCBA.
saying. We don't want anything done on the fly. We want a rationale stated for the number
Yeah,
and the
of
number
course.
correct, calculated correctly. Nobody wants to do anything on the fly.
so fine. So this is what we'll do. We'll have a thoughtful analysis by staff here, being driven to PCCBA with their experts' advice. We're not geared for that here, and that will come next after that, okay?
Right.
And so we will send that back to the PCCBA with express intent to also define an allowable square footage for that building.
So the resolution, that one restriction would read exactly how, Peter, that you're writing down right now?
Or bulk rather than square footage, because there may be other variables that would be more appropriate.
all eyes on you, Peter.
Writing as fast as I can. The total square footage for the proposed building to be constructed on the 1750 property may not exceed the number recommended by the PCZBA and approved by the village board as part of final plat approval.
And I would just add, not in the resolution, but for the purposes of the PCZBA, that it ought to be tied to something. And I think that's what George was attempting to do.
Tied to the original size of the lot pre-subdivision.
Yeah, my gosh.
It seems incredibly harsh.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
Considering that that was the smallest of all the substandard lots in this area, that is rather harsh and doesn't, it actually
See
made,
the calculation if we,
made the house not fit in with the surrounding area.
so,
The
yeah.
current house did not fit in with the surrounding area. It was much, much smaller and was built right up against the roadway. I don't.
Wasn't
think
much of a
it's-
house.
I'm sorry?
Wasn't much of a house.
No.
And how it was used or otherwise.
Yeah, are we,
I don't know that we want to lock in
Yeah.
something that's going to force a repetition of that.
so that, a question I have is the new size of the lot? Is that how we get the 6,300 square foot?
Generically, it's, it's
Uh,
FAR is 24%.
As if it were sitting in R4 or as if it were sitting in a
Country estate.
country estates?
Still in the state.
Would the number even be bigger in the R4?
There's
Yeah,
really two lots, right?
Yeah.
There's two lots. Bigger lot is, it has, we're fine.
Yeah.
on that.
Michael,
That's-
yeah.
Trying to speak.
that's-
Mike, do you want to clarify something?
Yeah, I would. Thanks. This is Mike Croak, Building Code Supervisor here. I just want to point out that although our lot coverage regulations vary a little bit by zoning district, the FAR regulations do not vary by zoning district. They are the same for all the residential districts, and the FAR is based only on lot size. However, I think one aspect of our code that's a little bit unique here is most municipalities prohibit counting the private street toward the lot area. In Lake Bluff, instead, we prohibit private streets. That does seem to put us at a little bit of a disadvantage in a situation where we actually already have one, because I think because we prohibited private streets, presumably the people who wrote our code originally never thought to prohibit them from being counted towards the lot area. So in this case, they're looking for a variation to be allowed to have the private street as the street fronting their lot, but it would only be by condition on the plat that we would, have the regulation most municipalities have, wherein that private street land doesn't count towards the lot area, because of course it doesn't make sense very logically to allow one lot to count a street toward their lot area and increase their FAR when, other lots in town that border on public streets can't count that area toward their lot area and FAR.
Mike, do you know if we have any precedent for whether we include a private street in an FAR or we don't? Do you know how we've interpreted this in the past?
I don't know. I don't recall it being an issue in the 10 years I've been here, to be honest. There's not a lot of redevelopment. This is about one of the few private streets we have in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we were to, just throw this out there for purposes of future discussion, if we were to say what matters is the lot size as amended, whatever it was, doesn't matter. As amended is what matters, is to the lot size, but we don't include a private street because that was never the intention of the ordinance. So we calculate the square footage based on the unencumbered property line,
Mm-hmm.
and then we calculate the FAR. I'd like to know what that number is, but
6139.
that's 6139. I see. There we are. And is that with the 20% obligation as well?
There's
Could
two
you read
different
that
numbers.
again?
Lot coverage is
Could you read that
20%, so
again?
that's 5,078. The floor area is 24.24. That is out to 100.
Yes.
That's the 6.
All
No.
right, so we need to,
I know, we could talk about this forever.
at the end of the,
2078, that's my number.
at the end of the day, okay, fine, the number could be that number. At the end of the day, we need to have a staff agreement on this moving forward to PCCBA, and that will be back here. We're not going to solve that here at the end
No,
of the day.
no, you're right.
And I think we had the last conversation, you made your point, and we are grateful to having heard that conversation, but we need to move forward. So I would,
Have Peter read that.
Yeah, so the
Revised.
motion would be a motion to approve resolution number 2025
55.
55. As amended to change the language in D1 to read as follows. The total square footage for the proposed building to be constructed on the 1750 property may not exceed the number that may be recommended by the PCZBA and approved by the village board as part of the approval of the final plat.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and this is a,
Voice
roll
vote.
call. It's a voice vote. All in
We
favor?
don't see there's any public comment. Sorry.
We'll stop for a second for our public comment. I got excited for a second. Are there any public comments?
Anybody participating in tonight's meeting in Zoom had comments on this item? Now is the time to raise your hand to be heard. None.
All right,
No.
and so it is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, this will be sent back to staff and PCZBA and will come back to us eventually.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about the.
December.
Good, so December.
December.
Thank you. Love the weeds. The big fan.
And we would be back next to item 15. That would be a resolution approving the execution of a master lease purchase agreement with PNC Bank to finance the purchase of a 2025 Pierce Enforcer pumper truck. Is there a motion to approve this resolution? Motion to approve. Thank you. This item is the first of two matters before the village board on Monday night concerning the acquisition of a new Pierce pumper rescue truck for the Lake Bluff Fire Department. At its October 27, 2025 meeting, the Finance Committee reviewed several options for acquiring the truck, including financial terms, delivery schedule, and key contractual provisions. Following that discussion, the committee unanimously recommended that the village board move forward with a purchase, recognizing that delivery is not expected before April 2030. If approved, the attached resolution authorizes the village to enter into a lease purchase agreement with PNC Bank, the Pierce manufacturing official financing partner, to finance the acquisition. While the village has previously financed fire apparatus purchases through local bank loans or existing funds, current market conditions no longer make those options favorable. As discussed by the Finance Committee, the financing terms offered by PNC Bank are the most advantageous by the village. Approval of this agreement will allow the village to proceed with all aspects of a procurement process and secure the available discount offered through the 100% prepayment option. A question to Drew or staff or Greg or fire chief.
I would just add two things really quickly, if I may.
Absolutely.
So both this master lease purchase agreement as well as the next item you're going to discuss, the agreement for purchasing the equipment from McQueen. What I'm showing you in these agreements are kind of worst case scenarios. These are their stock standard agreement forms. We've been working with Peter's office with these particular vendors to there will be changes to these documents, but the way they're set up is that the village attorney will have to approve them in their final form, but this is kind of a worst case scenario. So I just want to make that clear for everybody.
Cool. Thank you. Questions to Drew and staff?
I have a question just about delivery expectation. Is that the standard that you have to wait that long?
It is now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This item, Drew and I talked about that 6 months ago. And it was mentioned in a few newspapers as private equity bought vendors and merged them and made it that now people have to wait 4 years and the price must multiply by 5. And that's what we're exposed today. And it makes me very, very angry because we're being gouged, simply enough.
I don't have a question, but want to make a comment for Chief. Chief, this is a really exciting time for our community. We buy these once every 20, 25 years. It's going to be a big deal for public safety. It's going to improve life for our residents, and I'm excited about it. It's going to cost some money, but I'm excited about what it offers our community. So thank you.
I agree. Thank you for that support. Appreciate that.
Party when it arrives? Does it get a name?
4 years.
There'll be a rope around it. Don't get near it.
4th of July, you can ride in the parade.
Hold you to it, Chief.
Fair enough.
At this price, you're not using that truck, okay?
Fair enough.
I didn't get a ride in the last one I approved.
Well, we'll have to make up for that.
Okay.
All right, this is if there are no more comments, this is a roll call vote. Any more comments? Okay, it's a roll call vote. Clerk, please call over roll.
Trustee Fisher,
Aye.
trustee Freed,
Aye.
trustee Renner,
Aye.
trustee Ryder,
Aye.
trustee El-Shamas.
Aye.
I don't know if you need to read the other one.
Thank you. The next item is item 16, a resolution approving the purchase of a Pierce Enforcer Pump Rescue Fire Truck from McQueen Equipment LLC. Is there a motion to approve a resolution?
So moved.
Second.
So the second item is, thank you. The second item is, the difference is basically allowing staff and fire department to buy this equipment as opposed to the relationship with PNC Bank. Any questions to Drew on this item?
Just I'll add this, one of the advantages is working with PNC on this is that they'll be able, the way all this should work, assuming we can work out all the details of the agreements in time, is that we should be able to take advantage of that price reduction by PNC will provide all the funds to pay for the truck in advance and get that reduction sizable.
What's the total of that?
161 and change is the,
161,000.
yeah. So that's, again, why makes sense to go with this financing outfit. So that's the plan.
Any more questions to Drew? I do not see more questions.
Roll call.
It's a roll call. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Freed.
Aye.
Trustee Renner,
Aye.
trustee Ryder,
Aye.
trustee El-Shamas,
Aye.
and trustee Fisher.
Aye.
Thank you. Congratulations, Greg.
Hurry up and wait. Right.
4 more years. I want to ride. So, sorry, next item is item 14. That would be an ordinance vacating and selling a portion of a public right-of-way at 0 Simpson Alley, and I did check on that, by the way. Could I please have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. JP Asta owns 550 Ravine Avenue and has requested to purchase a small portion of Simpson Alley right of way adjacent to his property. Other portions to the Simpson Alley have been vacated and sold to neighboring property owners as well. Historically, the village has vacated portions of public right of way when there is no public benefit to be obtained by the village continued ownership. The 2002 village-owned lots and unique right-of-way study recommended the village vacate the far western end of this right-of-way and maintains the improved portion that is 25 feet in width that serves as the functional alley. The vacation of this land would be consistent with this recommendation. Mr. Asta has agreed to purchase the property from the village at fair market value for $1,650 plus any reimbursable cost.
I'm showing up on the screen. This is only 230 square feet. At the time when the board discussed this, the direction was to talk to the adjoining neighbors. We will do that, but the property owner wants to get up a fence and make repairs to his current fence, and if it can happen sooner, the better, and that's been his request, so let's put that out there.
We haven't talked to the neighbors yet?
Well, the neighbors to the east with the other remaining, you can see where the the village is only using half of the alley. The
Yes, I
250.
understand.
Yeah, and so the southern half, as it,
Yeah.
you can see the language or where the Park Place, just the south of that lot 1, we have not contacted them yet.
Lot 1.
Yep, to the east.
And do they own that space yet, or? if
They do not.
And nor has the one to the east of that? Part of lot 21?
I'm trying to remember, the Murrays did acquire
Yeah, yeah, I know they
portion of
did.
that one.
I don't
Jeff, do
recall.
you know? Okay, so we can't answer that question, sorry.
Okay.
Drew, I'd like to say a couple things about this
Yeah.
one. So to start with, I'm very close personal family friends with the applicant here, so I just want to disclose that. This resident had a fence once in this spot. The fence blew over or fell over for whatever reason. I know that this has been something we've been pursuing for a long time. It is at the end of Simpson Court. To me, I understand why he wants to put a fence back up. He has young children. It's a safety concern for him. Fair market value of $1,600 will tell you what size property this is at the end of that alley. So I've been back there. I understand what this means, and either one neighbor, it would be a shared fence line with them. So
Cool.
not only would I support it, but I would think for the sake of the safety of the kids and building a fence, I'd like to waive second reading on this one.
Opinion of the board.
Waiving a second reading when we haven't talked to the neighbors yet sounds
Might be a little bit hasty.
tricky to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. But I'm in favor of it. I just would like to make that final connection.
Agree.
I think that's the purpose behind a second reading, is to ensure that we've dotted our i's and crossed our t's. Though I hate to stand on the way of safety. How long has the fence been down?
Not sure.
I can't answer.
All right.
Drew, is it a fact that the neighbors have not been made aware of this?
The village, we typically do not notify the neighbors for matters like this. If it's a zoning hearing, they get notified for the sale of the property. For this, we have not. When we have been in a situation where the village is interested in vacating property that adjoins multiple properties, where the intent is to give adjoining properties a chance to buy or get half of that site. That is done, but that is not the situation here.
So, I mean, from a board standpoint today for this first reading, any objection to moving forward with that, to that sale? I don't see any objection to that. Given what Drew just said, that is typically we're not reaching out to neighbors in these cases, are we open to the possibility of waiving second reading?
No.
No? Okay. So it's going to be a first reading today?
Yes.
Do you want to see if there's any public comment? Because I think
Sure.
there-
I'm not in the mood for
Okay.
public comment today, I'm sorry.
So if there's anybody participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom and has comments on this item, now's the time to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting and be identified for public comment. Doesn't appear so.
Thank you. And sorry about the public comments. I have, of course, we must do that. It is going to be a
Voice vote.
voice vote. All in favor?
Hi.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. And so we'll revisit this subject in 2 weeks from now. Our last item for the reorder of the meeting is item 8A. And that would be the village administrators for your report on orange bags. Drew?
I have asked Shelton, management analyst here, to provide an update on the village's pilot program for food scraps. And this is a diversion program. And also Walter Willis, who is the executive director of the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County, of whom the village is a longtime member, might even be a founding member. But one thing of the many things Lake Bluff does very well as a community is manage our waste. The village has been recognized in the state, certainly in the region, as a leader in how we handle waste. The village was the first community in Illinois to have a year-round food scrap composting program. The village has done a good job of negotiating extremely low rates for both our residents and the commercial sector. Enjoy some of the lowest rates in the state. If not, Walter, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. If we have the lowest. But I'll let Shelton, do you want to go first? And Walter, you can hear us? Yes?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good evening.
Shelton, I don't know that I have your.
I emailed it.
Oh, well, stand by. Walter, while I'm pulling this email, I'm sure you can wax poetically on the village's success.
Well, I think on the food scrap year round, there's only, I believe, less than 20 communities in the entire state. 6 of them right here in Lake County, and you guys were the first. And like you said, on your commercial franchise, I think you do have the lowest rates for your businesses in the state. And of course, your drop-off program, you're doing the Hefty, you're doing the Recycle Coach. Your diversion numbers, I don't have them in front of me, but are very high as far as what you do, as far as recycling goes. So, and your all those programs, yeah, you guys are always ready to engage. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Shelton?
That's me. All right, just a quick update on the pilot program for food scraps here in Lake Bluff. For some background, this is from a $16,000 grant that we received or participated in the program through SWALCO. 2-year pilot program for residents to drop off food waste at designated neighborhood locations. The effort was to increase compost awareness and participation. We initially had students and volunteers canvass the North Terrace neighborhood. We had 90 households initially signed up, and we've had staff and volunteer participation. You can go to the next slide. So there were 2 primary locations for these shared compost disposal areas, these food scrap receptacles. The first one is adjacent to 775 Malman, and the next one is at the northeast corner of Lincoln and Blodgett there. And this past spring, we actually had our public works staff install landscaping around both of those 2 containers. Next slide. And this is just an example of what the compost signage looks like in front of those receptacles. Some of the communication efforts that we've done, we had volunteers canvass the North Terrace area with some students as well to recruit households to participate. There was a letter sent to all North Terrace residents explaining the pilot program and how they could opt in to participate. And then there have been emails sent by volunteers and by staff to provide regular program updates. And you can see some of those examples in the report in your packet. As far as the budget goes, if you look at those numbers, you can see we've come in a good deal under what we had budgeted for it. We had a $16,000 grant, and we have spent just about $2,500. So we still have $13,487.95 remaining from that grant. And do I hear, is there a comment coming there?
No.
All right. But yeah, of the 90 homes initially participating, 20 of those homes opted into reporting their compost weights each month. So each month of the program, those 20 households, at least initially, would weigh and report their weight and send it over to Paul, who would compile this data here. And yeah, to visualize that a little bit, here's the total poundage composted from the households that reported. And so you see, we started out with about 434 pounds in the first month. We're down to about 150 in July, which was at the time of the report, the most recent data available. But I'm seeing that in October of this year, we actually had a total of 178.4 pounds. You can go to the next slide. So a lot of that decline is largely due to just the number of households that are reporting. This tells us how many households are reporting. It doesn't necessarily tell us how many are participating, but it does sort of explain the decline in the overall weight. If you'll go to the next slide. And here's just the average pounds per home. You see this is a little more consistent over time. There was a spike around the holiday season last year, and it looks like in the summer of that year as well. But fairly consistent on average, an average of 25.4 pounds per home were diverted from landfills each month. So in late August and early September, as we were compiling this report, we did send out a brief survey to North Terrace residents. We received 32 responses, and of those 32 people who responded, 20 of them were currently participating, 6 had never participated, and about 6 had participated but had stopped participating. And a few of the reasons, I won't get into all of them, but why residents stopped participating. Some of the highlights were the smell of the food scraps in the home, but also just a lot of people didn't feel like they had enough food waste to justify participating in it. We'll go on to the next slide. We were also interested in learning about the respondents who had never participated. And of those six respondents, 2 were just not interested. 2 already compost another way. 1 said they had missed program communications, and 1 said they didn't have the counter space. Just a couple of major takeaways from this September report is that we have had some waning participation and reporting. And the other is that it's been significantly less expensive than we expected. And there are over $13,000 remaining from the $16,000 we had set aside. If there's any questions, I'm here. Paul is here. Take any of that.
So the question I had was, if I were living in the North Terrace, why would I want to go down the street to put this here, put this in these central locations as opposed to put it on top of my garbage can on Tuesday morning and have it taken away? Is there some benefit to doing it collectively that we're not getting when we do it individually?
And for everybody, this is Paul Blanc. He's been the grassroots organizer.
Yeah, Paul Blanc. I live at 750 Mom, and my mother-in-law, Jan Schnobrook, was really the brainchild and the thorn in Drew's side for many years to get this program going. But you raised a good question, Susan. So what I've heard from neighbors over the past couple of years, for the people who do use it on a regular basis, they like the fact that when their countertop pail is full, and it may be a Tuesday or Wednesday evening, they can walk down to the end of the block, get rid of it, and start fresh, as opposed to having to wait several days before the following Monday or Tuesday, or I guess Monday, for the North Terrace pickup. Also, those are the picture that Sheldon showed. Hopefully people can appreciate the wood structure around the Groot cans. Those are animal-proof enclosures, okay? And in the 2 years now we've been doing it, I've not heard or seen any evidence that any raccoons or other animals are getting in there. So those little wooden enclosures are doing the job. If you start to put a lot of food into a craft bag that goes to your curbside, even if it's on a Sunday night for Monday pickup, that's still one evening when the animals could potentially get to it. And then just the last thing is, especially this time of year, now that hopefully most of our leaves are picked up, to use a big 30-gallon paper bag just to put in, this much compost. I mean, they're not overly expensive, but that would all add up. So for the people that use this particular program, they like those advantages.
Thank you. One question I have for Shelton is the point you're making is you see a decreasing slope on the adoption, but the point you're also making is it's not so much that this is decreasing, this is a lack of a forward lack of reporting. So what I'm taking from your curve is there is interest in buying into the program.
Yeah, and it's, still relatively small scale. It's just the North Terrace. And as Sheldon mentioned, I think we had 85 or 90 initially signed up. At the end of last year, I just did a few calculations, and even at, say, 25% participation, which would be 20 or 21 odd houses, at 25 pounds per month per home, that still equates to over 3 tons of food that is being not put into landfills. It's being diverted. That food is not going to be converted into methane, which is 25 times as potent as carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. So even small numbers, the food being diverted, it adds up. So I think we're doing some good.
So, go ahead.
Say I participate and don't report.
There you go.
We have our countertop. We live on Blodgett, so the collection bin is right at the end of our block, and it's part of our dog walking routine. And
Thank you, Tara.
I have a question for Shelton. Love the data behind what you're doing. Thank you for putting that together. What ideas do you have to utilize the rest of the money?
That's a great question. We've got $13,000.
Yeah.
487. Yeah, $13,487.
The answer, we don't know yet, and that's the short answer. I will tell you, so this approach, this type of communal food scrapping is actually has its roots in more urban areas. Boston did it. And they had to get away from it because I think homeless people were taking the food, and so they had to shut down the program. But it's been a more urban approach, which makes sense when you think about it. For like a block would have their own waste receptacle for this food scrapping. But we talked about it, and the idea it's another way to do it. Like the villages, we don't have a lot of great intel on how many people are participating in the villages ride-along program, just because of the nature of the way it's operated. We haven't gone around and done an audit and looked at everybody's yard waste bags, and it'd be very difficult to discern, if it's there or not. If it was in the bottom of that, it's really hard to tell. But it's another way to divert food, and I think one of the best pieces of intelligence from this, it's really inexpensive to operate. And part of that's because the collection is being done by our hauler who's going around the subdivision anyway. And the idea that they can hit one spot, it doesn't stop them picking up from others, but potentially that's what it could be, right? It could be a communal, so it's less, be more strategic in where you would put these and so forth. But it's one of those where I think it's good data that we will go back, and our plans are to report back to the balance of the SWALCO membership, our experience with this. And maybe that helps decide maybe where some of this grant, but maybe somebody else tries it, or maybe we use it to keep this program going for another few years to collect more data. But we're going to go back to SWALCO and share that and get some direction from the membership there.
Hey, Drew, I can add in really quick. Why did we decide to issue that grant when you already had access? Individual homes can put it out there, right? But we were very intrigued by the communal aspect of it, by the younger adults getting involved and trying to get other people to food scrap compost, and I think that was successful. We also know that, like you said, in the 5 or so towns that we have around organics, we don't really have a good idea on how many people participate. And at least in this instance, we know that cart's getting filled up quite a bit. That's quite a bit of material. So we look at it as, I think, a success. And another reason is, some people don't like having the third cart for the organics, or they just, would rather just use a drop off. So we're pleased. And one thing we might be able to do with the money is try to educate some of the households that aren't participating, or we could look to expand the program to different neighborhoods if they would be interested.
So for $16,000, that pretty much we can cover half of Lake Bluff for that grant that was for 90 households. Seriously. I mean, if it's that, I mean, so my real question behind that is what's the next step?
Well, I think the next step, we'll go back to SWALCO and give a similar report and get direction from SWALCO about what they're flexible and what they would say maybe is there some other ideas for the next steps for this.
Is there a wish to extend that to a greater portions of Lake Bluff?
Maybe in this case, I went out and did some of the weekend touring because I didn't believe it myself that people would want to do this. Like, I'm going to hear it my firsthand. So I went around and knocking on doors with folks because it surprised me as well about who would be willing to do this. It seems less convenient, but there are other reasons why people want to do it.
Yeah.
That are, again, my pail fills up too fast, or I'm walking anyway with a dog, or, people came up with a lot of reasons why. Yeah, I don't know, at the end of the day where we bring this out to others, because some of the feedback I heard and anecdotally was, I don't want to have that in my neighborhood. And we were careful about where we cite. We spent a lot of time citing these in places where they were very discreetly located. And this was a neighborhood coming to the village saying, we want to try this. And so that helps, I think, to some degree with the success of it. And I'll go back to some of the feedback we heard as well. When we sent this out to spread word, my recollection is the letter says, oh, by the way, we have a ride-along program. So and yet some of the feedback is, I didn't know we had a ride-along program at the end of this. So it goes to show you, you can tell people numerous times about our program, but they just don't necessarily jump on or choose not to. So for whatever reason.
So I'm very happy to see this program moving forward or being continued, because I know that it has been a family project with Jan Snowbridge. I have no clue how many emails I got, but that's a lot of emails. And with you and Kathy.
Persistent.
And with you and Kathy, I mean, you guys have done awesome. And I'm very grateful because you provide a different way to be in the village. And we try, and this might be great. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Regis.
Thank you, Drew.
Yep. Thank you, Paul, for your work on this. Walter?
Thank you, Shelton.
All right, I will, I don't have a PowerPoint, sorry, but I just want to give some high level stats. We're 1 year into the Hefty Renew program. So I remember being at your village board meeting when we first started kicking things off. And we had a meeting last week that most of the participating towns did join in on with the Hefty folks. And we're 1 year into the program. We've diverted about 7,500 pounds of plastic, hard to recycle plastics. That's about 2,500 bags have been filled. We're starting to see some growth in the program though, for sure. Typically, Hefty does track the sales of how many cartons of the Hefty bags they sell at the various stores that they're in now. And it was averaging about 40 a week in the first 4 or 5 months of the program. And now we're up to about 80 or so. And we've spiked as high as nearly 100 per week as well. So we are seeing some growth in the program. And I think anything like a new program like this, 1 year is really not that long. And so we just need to continue to push the starter kits, which I think you guys have done that quite well. Getting people engaged in the program. Part of that meeting last week was we did create a video that we did customize for drop-off related programs like yours. So Drew, I hope you're aware that that video is available for you to use as you wish, and that we need to continue to make sure that we publicize this program, that the information be on your websites, that whenever you have a tabling event, we'd be willing to help out and get the word out, bring some starter kits. But anecdotally, I've talked to numerous people that are doing the program, and everybody really likes it. I think I do it myself, and then I bring them into the program. But there's so much material that you start to see that you can divert to this program. And so the key now is just to keep the momentum going. And I don't know, Drew, if you guys take a look at your container periodically, if you're seeing any kind of growth in the program locally, because really don't have data at the local level. But no, I'll take any questions, but we're committed to the program, and we just need to continue to beat the drum on education and why. And ultimately, when we get that first truck sent off, we can start to tell people about how it's being made into new products, and that we're, keeping those plastics and that material out of the landfill.
Thanks, Walter. Is there any questions for Walter?
No, thank you very much, Walter, for your involvement. This is great.
All right. Appreciate
Walter.
everything you guys do. Have a good night.
Thank you, Walter. The only other thing I'll add as part of my report is, I think everybody knows this, but tomorrow morning is Veterans Day at the Village Green at 9 a.m. Longstanding tradition, our community, very well attended. Because of the weather, we're moving it to the firehouse, which we've done in the past when weather is not cooperating, but it's a phenomenal event if you've never attended it, which I find hard to believe, but it's really worth seeing. It involves the local Boy Scouts doing a flag ceremony. President Charlot will actually lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Good warm up tonight, right?
I will actually default to that. I actually have a medical event.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay. Well, you're
That
looking
could
for
be
a
you.
stand-in?
You're gonna do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Actually, I have covered for
Okay.
the issue.
And the new pastor from the Union Church will be doing the invocation. The high school band will be playing, as well as a vocalist from the high school, Lily Kinsley. I believe that's how you say your name. The middle school will be participating. Raina Chowdhury will be giving the Gettysburg Address, always a classic. And then the History Museum will be giving the necrology, that Kathy O from the Bluff History Museum president. And then the guest speaker is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps, Major Melissa Canizales. So should be great. Always is. And happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. And we are now resuming our normal order of and that would be our item 7A, that is the warrants report for October 20th to November 10th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve this warrant report?
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you. And our reason for request tonight is for expenditure of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $258,214.18 for October 20th to November 10th, 2025. Are there questions for Drew and staff?
No questions.
No questions?
Roll call.
And it is a roll call. Please, clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee El Shamas?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Freed?
Aye.
Trustee Renner?
Aye.
And Trustee Ryder?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Bettina. Next would be item 9. That would be our village attorney's report.
No report tonight.
Thank you. Followed by my report, item 10A. And item 10A is the appointment of Mark Berry to fill vacancy on the PCZBA Board of Appeal. And so subject to consent of the Board of Trustees, the village president appoints members to the village various advisory boards and commission. Village President Charlot recommends the appointment of Mark Berry to fill the current vacancy on the Joint Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeal. It has been an item that has consumed me for several months, finding the right people to fit on the right boards. And the PCZBA is important to us. It's an important board. It really drives how our community is and appears. And so finding the right people to join that board has actually been difficult. I had lined up several people for the next vacant seat, and these people ended up saying, you know what, I said yes, but I need to move on, I need to move, I need to do something else, and that doesn't work. And finding Mark, who was the previous, was the The school board's president for 7 years, 8 years, Susan, was actually a good thing. Mark is a great person, super responsible, authoritative, and is a great community leader to fill that next seat on our PCCBA. And this is who I put in front of you tonight.
I'll just echo that I worked with Mark directly. He and I were on the school board together for 8 years, and then he stayed virtually unprecedented another term in order to help with the transition between superintendents. Definitely puts the community first. Well, sure, his wife might disagree, but he makes the community a priority and was really grew into his role as president and did a nice job for us for, it might have been 10 years. It was a long time.
And yes, Brian, he's an engineer as well. Okay,
It's good. We need more engineers in government.
let's get pragmatic. Any more questions about this item? Could I please ask for a motion to, formulate vote,
Motion to approve appointment.
to approve an appointment?
I'm honored to move to approve my friend Mark Berry as PCCBA member.
Thank you.
I will second that.
Thank you.
Voice vote.
It's a voice vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? And I thank you for this motion, and this motion carries. And I'm pleased and happy, Mark.
Accepted. Volunteer.
Mark will fill that seat. So thank you very much. Next item is our consent agenda, and our consent agenda tonight is item 11, acceptance of a correspondence, and correspondence was delivered to the village board in the informational report on October 31st and November 7. Item 12, a second reading of an ordinance granting a variation to install an accessory structure in the front yard at 400 McLaren Lane. And last, item 13, a resolution approving an Illinois elevator safety program agreement. Is there a request to remove any of these items from the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on these items? Any comments?
I was asked a question earlier today from trustee Ryder regarding the number of conveyances that are part of the elevator program. And I wrote the number down, and it's 28 in the village that are subject to this program.
And there's a small fee, I take it. We
Yes.
recoup the costs of having this go through us as opposed to individual homeowners doing it themselves.
Mike, remind me of the fee for this. It's like less than $20. Yeah.
Yeah, it's $15 for an
15.
annual inspection and 85 for plan review on modifications to elevators.
Another way in which we're, by aggregating this cost for our residents, we're doing them a public service.
As well as
and
local
keeping the cost
businesses.
down for the businesses and the residents.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Any more questions to Drew? Hearing none, clerk, please call for roll.
Trustee El-Shamaz.
Aye.
Trustee Fisher.
Aye.
Trustee Fried.
Aye.
Trustee Renner. Trustee Ryder.
Aye.
Thank you, clerk. For going forward, we are not considering our other business, and that would be item 17, a resolution estimating the amount of annual aggregate 2025 property tax levy. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Annually, the village is statutorily required to estimate the funds to be raised from taxes on real property in the village prior to the adoption of a final levy. This estimate serves as a planning tool and does not restrict the village board authority to adopt a different levy amount, provided the final action complies with the truth in taxation law and all applicable notice and hearing provisions. At its October 27th meeting, the Finance Committee reviewed the 2025 property tax levy projections and reached consensus on an aggregate levy estimate totaling $5,505,009. This figure reflects a revision from the original staff calculation following a request made by the library at the Finance Committee meeting to increase its extension. The library anticipated levy of $1,321,552 represent $114,655 increase over its 2024 extension, raising its portion of the increase to 9.5%. The village share of the levy remains consistent with staff original recommendation at $4,183,457. The village combined estimate tax extension of $5,505,009 reflects a 4.72% increase over the previous year. As a home rule unit of government, the village is not bound by the property tax extension limitation law, PTEL, which restricts levy increases to the lesser of 5% or the consumer price index, which is 2.9%. However, in January 2005, the village board voluntarily adopted Resolution 2005-6, pledging to follow PTEL guidelines for the non-library portion of a property tax levy. The estimated village portion of a levy remains within the limits permitted under the Property Tax Limitation Act and the adopted ordinance. The first reading of the 2025 tax levy ordinance and the public hearing will be held on Monday, November 24th. Any comments on the board?
Some questions.
Please.
Bettina, even with the loss of the grocery tax revenue that we anticipated, the village still was able to present a budget that was within the PTEL guidelines. Is that our portion of the budget?
So we haven't done budget yet. This
Okay.
is just the levy portion that we're going to request, and it'll be included in the revenues when we work on budget coming up in January, December.
Got it. Okay.
So kind of two separate events. This is precursor to that.
Precursor for it.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
We had a discussion about this at the Finance Committee, so I'll just comment on that. The village is always taken very seriously its commitment to not exceed the PTEL limitations, even though we're not legally bound to them. However, I do want to point out that we do in one way collect less in taxes than we are legally allowed to collect, even in as much as we abate about $200,000 in taxes that we could collect separately for debt repayment, as I understand it. So you'll see in your packet, there is a recommendation that we abate the amount, I'm looking for it on my packet, that would be permissible for us, even under PTEL, to collect in order to repay debt. We have chosen not to do that year over year, but we have chosen to collect the amount allowed to us under PTEL for the village. That has been a consistent practice, but I think it's important for us to identify that a reason that continues to be a consistent practice, despite the fact that we have other revenue streams, is that we are painfully aware that we have many, many costs in the near future as we try to remedy a generational issue with our stormwater. We know that even if PTEL gave us the ability to collect much more than this, we have places we are certain we will need to spend it. And so we have gone out 10 years and note that after a period of time where we have a healthy fund balance, it will decrease, even taking the extent of PTEL. We know that we are going to, in the next, I think it's 8 years or so, decrease, if everything goes the way we think it will, below what our recommended fund balance is, even if we continue to take PTEL. It is for that reason, the extent of PTEL. It is for that reason that I'm, as the finance committee, and we unanimously agreed that we would recommend this extension that equates to how much we could take under PTEL. And I just point out that we are consistent with practice, not collecting the amount that we could collect, even if we're subject to PTEL, for the debt portion that is separate from PTEL, as I understand it. The reason I point that out is that we are able to make our budget even without the $250,000, but that is estimated from the grocery tax. We are able today to make our budget, but we are also painfully aware of huge expenses that are in the future, and that's why we need to extend the levy at this number. I will also point out that the library is not bound by the same pledge that the village have bound ourselves to. And they are asking for an amount that exceeds their PTEL amount. Rather than 2.9%, their budget or their request is 9.5% in increase from last year. They don't have other revenue streams. This is it. With a here and there, some contributions of ours. So I also commend to you the recommendation to go ahead with the approval of the library's budget. As the chair of the finance committee, we did go over that at our last meeting and recognize that their needs are far greater than what they are proposing to collect in revenue. They came to us with a larger budget. We asked them to relook at it. They scaled it back to 9.5% increase over last year. That does not account for what they know are extreme capital needs. They are not trying to collect through their tax levy all of the expenses that they are certain they're going to have to expend. What they are doing, and what I know that they're committed to do, is we sat in a room and talked about it for months, is relook at their operating model, relook at their capital needs, and present to us a path forward. Because we recognize that it's less than ideal that they need to increase their tax burden as much as they do. So again, commending to you after the finance committee, if I'm not over representing, that we commend this tax levy recommendation to you.
Thank you. And you will see that in other parts of the meeting, we're starting Green Bay Road, that is about $4 million. But we're preparing for next year's bridge on Green Bay Road, that is again $4 million. And that we also have the tunnel, the deep tunnel that is somewhere around $22 million total on the total of 3 years of work that is changing transformative to the village. So that's where we stand today. We are really taking at heart the health of the infrastructure health of our village. Any comment on the board following Susan? I do not see any more comments. Thank you, Bettina. It is God, I'm lost. This is item 17. This is a voice vote. Is it?
It's an estimate, yes.
It's an estimate. Okay. Could I please, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. And this motion carries. Thank you very much, Bettina. Next item is item 19. That is a resolution authorizing the execution of a joint funding agreement for federally funded construction with the state of Illinois for Village of Lake Bluff Green Bay Road Reconstruction Project. Could I please have a motion on this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. And specifically, that would be that the Village of Lake Bluff has received $2,840,000 of federal funding through the Surface Transportation Program for the reconstruction of Green Bay Road from West Witchwood Lane to just south of Illinois Route 176, also known as West Scranton Avenue. This will fund approximately 75% of the estimated project cost of $3,750,000. The STP requires the village to enter into a joint funding agreement for federally funded construction with the state of Illinois. The attached agreement specifies that the state of Illinois will pay the selected contractor and invoice the village for its local share construction. The village will pay for the construction engineering firm for its services and invoice the state of Illinois for reimbursement from the STP. The project will be included in the state of Illinois January letting and is scheduled for construction from April to November of year 2026. The project costs have been included into the project budget for fiscal year 2027 and fiscal year 2028. Question to Drew and staff.
We have to loan the railroad money.
Oh,
Oh, is that the
so
next one?
that's like they're set up an escrow agreement to review our permit and
Because they're poor. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's the next item, but I find that rich, but doing business with the railroad.
the law is on their side.
Right.
Any more non-starkey question? And that would be if there are no more questions, seriously, it's a roll call vote. Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee El-Shammaz?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Fried?
Aye.
Trustee Renner? And Trustee Ryder?
Aye.
Thank you. And I do remember having questions to railroad federal authority is asking about what's happening in Lake Bluff and being responded that we're not answering those questions. So absolutely just justified.
Whatever we can do to get them to the table, right?
Yeah. Next item is item 20, a resolution authorizing the execution of a construction engineering services agreement with Baxter and Woodman for the Village of Lake Bluff Green Bay Road Reconstruction Project. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. The Village Surface Transportation Program funding for the Green Bay Road Reconstruction Project includes 80% funding for construction engineering expenses. In accordance with STP funding requirement, the village initiated a quality-based selection process to select a qualified firm to provide construction engineering services for the project. The village solicited statements of qualifications and received responses from one firm. The responding firm, Baxter and Woodman, is the same firm that has provided the phase 1 and phase 2 engineering services for the project, and village staff believes they are qualified and capable to provide the required inspection and testing services for the project. Following the selection process, the village received a proposal from Baxter and Woodman to provide the construction engineering services for a total fee of $349,961. As a part of the STP funding process, the village received confirmation from the Illinois Department of Transportation that all the selection procedures were followed, and IDOT subsequently reviewed and approved the proposal from Baxter and Woodman. The project will be included in the state of Illinois January letting and is scheduled for construction from April to November 2026. Again, the project costs have been included in the project budgets for fiscal year 2027 and 2028. After the STP funding reimburses the village 80% of the construction engineering agreement, The net cost to the village for this agreement will be $70,000. Village staff recommends approval of the attached agreement with Baxter and Woodman for a fee of $349,961. Questions to Drew and staff?
No.
Nope. It is a roll call vote. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fisher.
Aye.
Trustee Fried.
Aye.
Trustee Renner.
Aye.
Trustee Ryder.
Aye.
And Trustee El Shamas.
Aye.
Thank you. And last item related to Green Bay Road and bridges and trains. Item 21, a resolution authorizing the execution of a reimbursement agreement with the Union Pacific Railroad for the Village of Lake Bluff Green Bay Road Bridge Superstructure Replacement Project. Could I please have a motion on this item, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Second.
Thank you very much. The Village of Lake Bluff Green Bay Road reconstruction project is planned to be completed in two parts. The first part includes a portion of Green Bay Road from West Witchwood Lane to south, just south of Illinois Route 176 or West Scranton Avenue, which will be completed in 2026. In 2027, the village will complete the reconstruction of a remaining portion of Green Bay Road to the village border with the city of Lake Forest and the replacement of a superstructure of a Green Bay Road bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad. Engineering for the second piece of a project is an ongoing item and is on schedule for bidding in the fall of 2026. The bridge work within the railroad right-of-way requires the village to obtain a permit from the Union Pacific Railroad. To begin this permitting process, the railroad is requiring the village to enter into an agreement in which the village agrees to pay for the railroad permit review expenses estimated at $25,000. The attached agreement, if approved, authorizes the railroad to bill the village for expenses as they're incurred. The estimated construction cost for the portion of the project to be constructed in 2027 is $4,250,000. The village grant from the Surface Transportation Program, bridge funding, is expected to be $3,400,000, and the village share is expected to be $850,000. These project's costs have been included into the projected budget for fiscal year 2027 and fiscal year 2028.
Roll call vote.
It's a roll call vote. Any comments on the board?
My comment from a few minutes ago stands, but I understand the necessity of needing to
Yep.
work under the rules that the railroad has set up.
Yep. I'm with you on that.
Drew, just a general question on Green Bay. You and I talked about possible diversions to the terrace.
Yes.
Okay. Has that been publicly discussed in front of you?
It was probably the primary topic of the last open house.
Okay.
Was the idea of people were concerned about cut through traffic and how we can manage that. And right now we have, I would consider it like a phased approach and how we dial things up based off our observations. We think it's likely to be, if people are going to cut through, it's going to be on the East Terrace, and that we would have law enforcement present there. And then if that was not discouragement enough, that we would maybe even pilot some traffic calming devices on certain stretches of the road where we think people would travel based off just practical considerations, but also keeping in mind all the summer activity down at Malman Park, and try to plan for that.
Okay.
Yes is the answer.
Okay.
I feel like this might have been discussed and are we gonna do any kind of actual, like, no through traffic type stuff?
So I'll let Jeff answer this, but
Yeah, I mean, it'll be local traffic only. on Green Bay Road, no through traffic. So the official detour will go through Lake Forest, and I think Highway 41 or 43. And it'll be signed that way. We all know the locals won't do that. We'll know a lot more once we get a contractor with a plan of how he's going to build Green Bay Road. So if they go in logical sections where people will divert off at the first available side street, then we'll be able to move any temporary measures along as the construction goes. But we don't know that yet. If they're
Yeah.
gonna rip the whole thing up, but they do have to give people access to their driveways at all times, so it would make sense to me that they would do a block or a block and a half at a time. Get people out of their construction site, but once we get a contractor and work with them on their staging plan and their schedule, we'll figure out where the maybe temporary measures need to be.
It's going to be very disruptive.
Yeah, and as we all know, I've received a lot of concerned correspondence, and I want to look out for my East Terrace homies of my original stomping grounds when I moved.
Yeah.
And I think the questions I also get a lot is what happens in 2027 when we replace the bridge, especially for people on Bluff and Tennis, people with whose kids are going to elementary and
High school
middle school.
Yeah.
And what will be the contingency and the services such as fire and police, and what does that mean? That is actually, this is on people's minds, and I know that we have a plan, but it will be, again, very disruptive. And I do apologize for that to the committee, but it's a necessary, we think 6 months and you think 4 months, but there is something like that.
We say 6, we hope for 4. You know, the first year will be more disruptive to the terraces because people will be trying to get through on Green Bay Road through the neighborhoods. The second year, when the bridge is closed, nobody's getting all the way through, so it should just be the local traffic and the terraces again. But yeah, the Wimbledon area will be hugely impacted that second year.
And I hope for the best at the end, a structure that will really improve Lake Bluff, simply. Thank you. Any more questions to Jeff and staff?
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. It is a roll call vote. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fried,
Aye.
trustee Renner,
Aye.
trustee Ryder,
Aye.
trustee El Shamas,
Aye.
and trustee Fisher.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next would be our trustees report. Thank you. Do any trustee wish to make a report tonight?
I have a update on a comment from discussion from last meeting. After George Russell reported to us about his observations at the ABR meeting, there was some follow-up. I talked to one of the board members of the yacht club this morning. He's a newly appointed board member. I think he's been board member for 48 hours now or something like that. But I would say that they remain very willing to consider our input. I think, hopefully are appearing before the PCZBA in December, although I think they're having their December meeting as far as I know. And so that was a useful conversation. It took seriously the concerns that we raised and are, I think, at least considering the possibility of moving the building back toward the Bluff, perhaps. I'll also report on an issue that many of us have been here a while will remember was my concern that was expressed to me by several community members of their frustration that they were not able to store at the compound. And as we know that it's a Lake Bluff Park District property generally, but we control and own this 200 square foot part on which the NWSRD sits and the yacht club sits. So that's why we're sort of in the middle of this. Under Commodore Seymour's leadership, there had been a direction that they were going to propose a bylaw change that would say specifically that after storage of the equipment of the yacht club, the equipment they own, then priority would go to Lake Bluff and I would say Park District residents. But the bylaw that was approved was substantially altered from that and gives significant leeway to the yacht club, to board of directors to grant 15%, but after they put all their equipment where they need it, the rest is allocated, but 15% is allocated first to the board to do with what they want. So then, like, Bluff residents get priority. Not the commitment that we had with Commodore Seymour, who unfortunately isn't there anymore. But it is at least a nod in the direction, albeit somewhat of a toothless nod in the direction of the Lake Bluff Park District taxpayers. I'll emphasize taxpayers getting priority in the storage. So I thought both of those, one was encouraging, one was disappointing. But that's where we seem to be. Maybe there are others who have more information more directly than I do, but I did very much appreciate the leader, Taylor Overman, with whom I spoke today, and his willingness to consider our input and go through the process as necessary. And committed to no chain link.
Oh. Thanks for doing that, Susan, for having those conversations.
Thank you, Susan. And I had also a conversation with Taylor. We can do things together. We have to maintain a good conversation, and we can all come to a good agreement for this space. That is Lake Bluff is a beach community. We live by the beach, and so we need to find the right space for it to be a community space. So thank you for that. Any more report from trustees?
Yeah, I have two things, Regis. As tomorrow is Veterans Day, I want to take a moment to thank the service of our Lake Bluff veterans. There's several of them, men and women who live in our community, who may even work on the base just north of us. So I want to take a minute to recognize the veterans in Lake Bluff. The second thing is to talk about America's 250th birthday. I've heard talk of a non-village, non-board committee. I think we need to stand up an ad hoc committee to celebrate America's 250th birthday next year. We're already in November. January is just a few months away. So that's something I'd like to discuss with the group, maybe in our next committee of the whole or something.
That's fine. I'd like to discuss it, but I don't understand why it would necessarily be different than the July 4th parade or the other community activities. Why this would be a board activity as opposed to a community activity as with other celebrations of our nation.
The 125th birthday was actually with two trustees, Mark DeWart and Joy.
That was
Marky, thank you, sorry about that. So both of them were actually trustee. I think that we should have two people on this board being part of that committee. I know that you want to volunteer yourself. Thank you very much for your service. That's going to be great. Thank you so much. And
yeah, put that
I'm happy to volunteer my time. Susan, I understand that I wasn't here 50 years ago, but I understand that for America's 200th birthday, we built the gazebo.
Yeah.
That's something, and that happened through a function of the village board's finances, the village board's commitment, giving up the space there to do it. So I don't know that me and you need to do the whole thing, but I think there should be involvement from the village board, and thank you for volunteering with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you have been talking about that, and so I'm very grateful. I mean, we first had Center Avenue, that was Centennial Avenue first, and then this is where Center Avenue comes from the 100th anniversary, and then came the 150 that was or 200, I don't remember. That was the gazebo. So. And now we are at the 250, that is the next item. I would really think that we should have two trustees do this work. Suzanne,
I am not volunteering, just to be clear.
Shane,
No.
Erin?
I would definitely consider it, especially if it's working with him, so.
That is a benefit.
All in favor? So no, that would be great. I think it is important to show our face and to provide an authoritative aspect to the village on this project. That is important. And this is working with the History Museum that has a great track record. If you look around the village for the 125th, in between the pavers out there, the bike race, what is along the lake, it was, and I forget a bunch of projects. They did an awesome job with Joy and Mark DeWort and Joy Markey. So I would really welcome some of us being with them.
I have an idea.
Oh, boy.
Okay, what?
Sounds like you're volunteering again.
No, I'm not, but I do want to consider a flag pole someplace else because we have Mr. White here and he volunteered the first $500. So let's consider
Thanks, Peter.
the flag. We'll go to the record. I do want to consider a flagpole.
That's a great idea.
Great idea, Susan.
I love
So
that.
my work here is done. Speaking of flagpoles though, I do want to comment one more thing on the beach. And that is that I did not take the 40 feet as a fact. To Peter's comment earlier today, directionally a concern, definitely different on June 20th than it is on October 13th or whatever the date was. Much different calculation, very, the Bluff will at some point overshadow the entire building itself anyway. So maybe it's a period of a few minutes where that adds to the shadow. I think before we approve anything akin to what they've proposed, we would need a daylight plane study, a real daylight plane study, because I take with a grain of salt the citizen science that brought us that information. And I just didn't want your comment to go unnoticed.
No, I did, actually, I did appreciate your comment. I mean, my background is in physics, so I should have thought twice about the first comment last week. So your comment is well received. So we need to put a little bit of smart before we say anything else forward.
Yeah. I don't think any of us said anything incorrect. I think the incorrect statements were made at the ABR. So I'm not withdrawing any comments regarding the whole thing.
Okay. No, I'm saying that these comments are not going to go forgotten. We're going to work on it. That's basically what I'm saying.
That's definitely the case. But what drove my concerns, which were vociferous, was not the 40 feet estimate taken in the middle of October. I appreciate enough about where the sun goes that I knew that that was directionally and not scientifically established.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Suzanne. Any more comments on the board for trustee report? Okay, moving forward. Thank you, guys. Moving forward, and that would be consideration of the minutes of the October 27, 2025 executive session. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or items to be modified in these minutes?
No.
No. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee El Shamaz.
Aye.
Trustee Fisher.
Aye.
Trustee Fried.
Aye.
Trustee Renner.
Aye.
And Trustee Ryder.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Next would be an executive session, and tonight that would be, could I please have a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing a security procedure for 5 ILCS 120/2 C8, a portion of our Illinois code, pursuant to the Illinois Open Meeting Act, and that upon the adjournment of a closed session, this regular meeting will be deemed to automatically be adjourned by the same vote without the conduct of any further business. Could I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's a roll call.
It's a roll call,
Oh.
sorry. Clerk, please call the roll.
Okay. Trustee Renner,
Aye.
trustee Ryder,
Aye.
trustee El Shamaz.
Aye.
Trustee Fisher,
Aye.
trustee Freed.
Aye.
Sorry about the confusion. And this concludes the open part of a village board meeting, and thank you anyone in attendance. And have a